Hello everyone, this is a compilation podcast about the mass deletion of Digi's videos and the broader topic of deleting and or preserving content. When Thupa and I were doing the Kino's Journey podcast, he spontaneously brought this topic up at the end of it, and that inspired me to talk to a few people I know over social media, pick their brains about it, and make this. In addition to Thupa, I talked to Grafo, a zone guy I know through social media who is a musician and has a pretty fun Twitter presence. And I also spoke to Asher Lev, someone who has collaborated with Digi doing lyric videos for them, and again, who I know through Twitter. A few notes about this. The audio in this specific podcast was recorded earlier this month, so it is a little outdated. The situation has been evolving quickly. I also wanted to get a hold of Michi, and we did record, but it was significantly later. Me and Michi only recorded a few days ago. I screwed up and did not get his file in time. So the conversation I had with him will be dropping separately in the near future, probably tomorrow. When I talked to Grafo and Asher, I specifically told them we are using the Digi situation as a jumping off point for this topic. It does not necessarily have to go one way or the other. Specifically regarding the end of the Digi channel, I did want a mix of opinions. Thupa was obviously annoyed. I suspected Asher would be a little warmer in their feelings towards the whole thing, which turned out to be the case. And Grafo and Michi, I wasn't sure I could see them going either way, more or less how it worked out. I did a very poor job of promoting during the podcast. Please look in the description and click on the people involved. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoy it. Because if your one block of free time a week is being spent talking to me, and then I suddenly bring in a bunch of people you don't know, and I'm talking about shit that you don't care about, that would get annoying quickly. So I wanted to make sure I pitched that to you in a decent way. Like for example, just a little bit ago, Grafo on Twitter, when I was talking about this, he responded to something we said saying, "Oh, are you guys talking about deleting videos? I'd be interested in talking about that."
Actually, you know what? I want to talk about this for a moment. You could probably graft it onto the end of the podcast.
Well, I was kind of thinking we could do a whole thing on that if you wanted. I didn't get an opportunity
because I had to go last time around when we were recording.
I also had...
I don't think I have enough to say about that. It's just, I have a very strong opinion here, and I know it's completely biased, but I don't know there's enough of it to feel like a significant chunk of time. It's like maybe a couple of minutes.
Sure, we can talk about this for a minute. I'm gonna piss, but go ahead. I can hear you.
Sure, use this as you will. Alright. So while you're taking a piss, I'm gonna take a piss of my own on Digi, because here's the thing. I understand as a content creator when you want people to forget you for the person you were, and you take a drastic change of your personality that you're feeling like burning some bridges, but like moving on forward as you do so. But god fucking damn it, if there's one thing I do not stand for, it's denying the past person that you were. I believe that if you're moving on as a person, if you're becoming a different personality as you age, as you change something in your life drastically, like changing your fucking gender, which is pretty drastic in my opinion. God, you cannot possibly just privatize your past. You have to own up to what you were to become something new. And her, I suppose, at this point, privating a bunch of videos, remaking the popular ones in a new format. It's bullshit. It's plain and simple bullshit to me. I do not subscribe to the idea. I do not support it, and I don't think I can support a person who has this perspective. While I understand it and respect it, boy was I burned by this decision. And I've gotta say, it's been quite some time since I've understood the direction Digi has pushed herself in general. Moreover, another thing that has been bugging me for a while is that, by her own admission, she has been slacking on Patreon rewards, and
well,
frankly, I just think when you have a work to do, you have to do your work. Hate it or not, you do. So fucking just I just expected better of Digi. That's the gist of it.
I think that's very fair. I will say about Digi's name, I know they changed their name, but there is some inertia here, so they'll have to just deal with it for this podcast.
Fucking hell, I've been calling for her. I'm fine calling DJ her at this point. I haven't dealt with that before. That's a new emotion for me. But goddamn, if I'm willing to go that far after 6-ish years of watching them on YouTube, boy.
Yeah, I had just barely gotten to the point where using her with Digi had become second nature almost, and I didn't fuck it up that much. But it's getting to the point where Digi's mapping in my brain is becoming this diffuse cloud full of self-contradictions and doesn't really gel into anything coherent. And I also have the additional layer of having met Digi in real life on top of that. So it fires off into this fucking associative dream-like word cloud in my brain, and I can't even process their existence in conversation at this point. It's hard to talk to people about Digi and even remember what the fuck I'm talking about.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
It's just confusing. It's been confusing for a long time, and at this point, it's just gone beyond point of reason for me. And I am an unreasonable person. I am a fucking maniac.
You mentioned it being unfair to change your past or your persona. How much of a distinction do you make for stuff that is public or stuff that is not? Because the odd thing with Digi is they've put so much of their life and their persona into the public sphere that it's hard for them to do anything without kind of invalidating their previous work in some way or taking a wild break with it.
If it's on the internet, it's not yours anymore. It's public at this point. Do I like this? Not very much. But nevertheless, if I have uploaded something online, I either stand by it or I fucking have to answer for it. Whether it's now or later.
Well, I'll ask you this.
What ends up on the internet stays on the internet. It's a part of my larger philosophy that fucking I am the evolution of a person that was there before. Maybe a day before, maybe a year before. I have in the past fucking gone off the deep end and deleted some of my shit, and I regret it. And if people ask for it nowadays, I will answer about it. Because there is no record, but I think fair is fair. If it was there, and if somebody is interested, I will tell them.
How much of an exception would you make for work that, looking back, was an obvious and complete mistake? Where no one cared about it, no one liked it, it has really no continuity with your current stuff. Because I have a few things from many years ago that calling attention to them now would accomplish nothing other than embarrassing myself.
I don't think it makes a difference. I genuinely don't think it makes a difference. As I've said, I'm an evolution of a person that was there before. If, let's say, 6 years ago, I was a retard who was overly happy online with everybody and fucking tried to be cheerful as I could be under huge depression at the time, I can tell you what, I've said a lot of stupid shit. I had a moment where I watched MLP with people online and went into a complete hugbox in Twitch chats. It's embarrassing, but I have screenshots of those conversations if people are interested, because fucking it's gone. I am embarrassed by it. There are moments where I just remember the shit I've said online and I need to take a moment of, oh my god. But I've been that person, and I'm not anymore, and that's fine.
I'll ask you this then. Am I being disingenuous in your eyes by the fact that what current audience I have not told them about failed, weak short-term projects from my early 20s that I have since abandoned. Does that make me a bad person that I have not told the anime people about that?
I don't think you need to tell anybody anything. But if it's online, I don't think you should try to obscure it post factum. Do you have to tell anybody anything? No. I don't have to tell anybody anything. I don't even have to talk to anybody online. If you annoy me in Twitch chat, you know what I do? /ignore your name, enter. There it is. I will never hear from you ever again. But if somebody that I care for asks something of me, fucking, I have to own up to it. I do. And obscuring that information, making it harder to find, post factum of its release, post factum of its publishing, I think it's disingenuous. I think it's unfair to people that you might care about or people who care about you.
And the thing about Digi, do you think that the fact that people care about them so much, and that's such a big part of what their fandom is, do you think that affects their responsibility with that?
I think there's a certain responsibility there that is additional.
Okay.
But I don't think it plays any additional factor in my decision making here. Whether there is this level of extra responsibility or not, I just think they're doing the wrong thing by me, not by this responsibility. By me as a fan, as a viewer.
That is the aspect of this I think is the most undeniable, where Digi is starting over in terms of what they're working on, but I don't get the impression that Digi plans on ending their narrative YouTuber, parasocial, on ending their system where they are a brand and a cult and a social phenomenon more than they are simply an artist or creator.
Well, any YouTuber is a cult of personality. As a YouTuber, you're not just like a company off on yourself. You are a brand as a person. And fuck, if you want to do rebranding and change your personality, that does not mean you can deny your past. I'm coming back to the same point again. God damn it. It just really rubs me wrong.
And the thing about Digi, where this seems so weird, is if you're keeping up the narrative YouTuber cult of personality thing, then it's a really bad idea to advertise to potential fans that you are liable to turn around and destroy everything and make it hard to access and expect fans to keep up archives and stuff like that. Where I think it would be hard for a newer fan to trust Digi going forward, where if you get involved in the new saga of them, it has to be in the back of your mind, I can't get too invested in this because they'll destroy it at some point and I'll feel betrayed. So I think there's a certain level of fandom that Digi had really easily in the past that this is going to make it harder to get going forwards.
That is actually a fair point. That's something... You've put, words to something I had in the back of my mind. Literally just now. Because it's something that I've kind of felt, but I haven't formulated it for myself until right now. As I think it's even more prevalent to the long-term fans, isn't it? That if she goes forward as a long-term fan, there's a strong possibility that stuff that you liked from before will be gone, and then new stuff that they release will maybe be gone later.
Yeah, it makes it harder to care, where it's almost like, this is a bad example, it's almost like telling someone you're prescribing them a placebo, where the mysticism and the artistry around creating the persona of the YouTuber, once you admit that that was kind of a put on, and once you admit that you were lying about a large portion of your life and your mentality, doing it again, it's harder. It's almost like Digi would have to get reconstructive surgery and show up out of nowhere, out of the blue, and completely start over, where I don't see a great deal of compatibility between the existing fandoms Digi picked up from the anime and the Pony days and what they're going to have going forward. And there's probably going to be a conflict there where the easier it is for you to imagine Digi as someone who did not exist 2 years ago, the easier it probably will be for you to get invested in them going forward.
I just want to stress something out here, that neither of us have a problem with them fucking changing in the manner that they are. It's just the way they're going about it is destructive.
I do a little, kind of, but not in the way that people would think, I think.
I genuinely, when I found Digi, I treated them as a crazy person, and I still do, to a degree, because, oh boy, have they done a turnaround a couple of times in their career. And fucking, she even admitted to fucking, well, at that time it was he, admitted to burning bridges and starting over again. But god damn it, it's just, this was one step too far for me.
The weird thing is about this, I completely understand. I just had a moment where I got really sick of YouTube. I suddenly became conscious of a lot of really bad incentives in it. I realized that spending my time in another way would be a lot more likely to go somewhere in the long run than keep plugging around the YouTube thing. I thought about destroying my channel over and over and over again over the last month or so. And partially the response to Digi is how I realized that is a horrible fucking idea. Where starting over is one thing, but completely destroying everything really isn't, even on a psychological level, it's not healthy for people to do that. And I understand that impulse on a deeper level too. I've done that in my personal life, where declaring a chapter of your life to be over and acting like it didn't happen is something I have done many, many times. But I think you hit a limit with that where it starts to really fuck with you mentally to do it.
I suppose it does.
And it is not my place to fucking chide Digi, or I guess now B, about their psychological self-help. But I think that your identity, your ego, your sense of self, it's not something that you're supposed to be fucking with all the time. I think an identity is working when you think about it a very small percentage of the time. That's how you know it's working. It's something that is humming around unconsciously in the background most of the time that you occasionally have to work on or patch up. If you are fixating on your ego to the point that a massive part of your brain power is dedicated to crafting what you think will be a perfect identity that solves your relationship to the world forever, if you're continuously doing that, it just deepens the rift between you and the world around you, and it leads to a sort of isolation and psychological turmoil, and I don't think that's good. There's actually very few behaviors that I think are more consistently going to lead someone to a bad place than obsessing over the divisions between you and the world around you.
In the end, I just wanted to say that whatever the fucking decisions, go on with it, change your life. I'm just bummed that fucking I can't enjoy a supportive thing.
Yeah.
That's been happening now. I wish I could enjoy more things. I genuinely do.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
I'm just a jaded dickhead on the internet. I'm getting there. Actually, I got there. Never mind.
I still haven't used it yet. I bought a fishing pole the other day because all this shit is making me realize, you know what? Real life is not always the worst. It usually is, but there are good things in real life. There are fish. I could go and I could catch a fish, and that would be better than anything that happened on YouTube.
And you know what I could do? I could watch some fucking VTubers.
I know you do.
Oh
That's
my
what happens
God,
to
so
people
adorable.
like you and me. You get old and sad and weird, and everything falls away until you're left with the one unifying fundamental human characteristic, which is that cute things are the only things that matter.
Mogu mogu. Okay, I don't even speak Japanese, and I watch them still. I understand one word in 20. If I'm lucky.
This might get dumped, but I'll ask you, the fact that around a year ago, I made several videos very quickly that I wasn't happy with most of them, and I quietly privated them at one point and took the channel they were on down. I moved a few of them onto the main channel, but not that many. Do you view that as a moral error, even if I tell you that those videos got no real response when I put them up?
Look, I've said you that at the time. I'll say it again. I don't agree with that decision. I didn't agree at the time. But if you do it, you do it. I'm not gonna fucking stand over your shoulder and say that is
Thupa,
wrong.
you are the arbiter of morality, and you need to embrace that.
You know my opinion. I don't agree with it. I'm not. I'm the arbiter of cute things and what's shit in anime taste. Only those two things.
I know you are. Okay, I am here talking with Grafo. Want to pick their brain about the Digi situation and the topic of media erasure more generally. Grafo, how are you doing? How are you feeling about this?
Hello. I have like kind of mixed feelings. For one side, for example, I think like when media like in general is lost, that's shitty. Then, like for example, Digi was in her right like to erase everything. Yeah, so it's that kind of middle ground, you know? I think like unless someone pay for it, nothing is so.
In terms of losing media, do you think that losing media is always a tragedy? Do you think it depends on the quality? Do you think it depends on the response to it? Or is it something where media is inherently valuable and we should always try to hold on to it, do you think?
Oh, yeah, no. I think like it's always valuable. And if it's not like right now, how many things like in their prime were like totally trashed and like year later have like a renaissance on something. But yeah, and I think like kinda it's going to be always like more complicated to preserve it in a way. For example, I'm trying to find the word.
Oh, if you need a moment, that's fine.
No. I need to embrace, you know what? The Thupa advice and just embrace my retardation and go for it.
I thought you meant post lollies on Discord and alienate your friends, but okay.
Well, I need to start somewhere. But, for example, the YouTube channel. I saw like the reaction of the people, like for one side, like or totally okay, it's fine, or like really lamenting the fact that the channel was going to be nuked, basically. One thing that kind of surprised me was like no one realized that the channel in channel form is kind of doomed by the beginning.
Because of YouTube?
Yeah, if YouTube is the only place where it's going to be, eventually rules are going to change, videos are going to be deleted, YouTube is going to explode, and it's going to disappear. You know, for example, never happened to you like having a playlist of whatever music, it doesn't matter, in YouTube. And you start going through the videos and you see like half of them say like video deleted, not available, or
set
whatever.
To private.
Yeah, set to private. It doesn't matter. It's going to happen. Like no one really owns like the video. So like the fact that people relied on it is kind of funny.
That is very true. A thing about our current situation that's a little strange is we're sort of hitting a bottleneck in terms of preserving things online, where it used to be the physical media existed, it had backup copies back at the studio, thousands of people had physical copies in their basement. And now that we're moving to digital, we have less reliable forms of storing information. And also, we're more and more reliant on people like YouTube who will openly destroy information that has existed for a while.
Yeah.
So we're almost hitting a point where you could make a case that the importance of preserving stuff is getting higher because we might be at a little window of world history where information is more vulnerable than it either has been or will going forward.
Yeah, no, because I think like the fact of relying less in like physical media, in theory, should be like better in a way, like for preserving things. But the thing is, like for example, YouTube make it complicated. Can you download easily like the file, the MP4? Just out of a click? No, you need like to go around like weird corners. Like the reality, the only way to preserve one thing like in a computer is having it in the most simple format and have it the most amount of people possible, you know? I can preserve, I don't know, 1,000 movies, but if it's only in my hard drive, it doesn't really count. But if it's everywhere, there is no way to delete it at that point, you know?
Ironically, I remember a similar conversation a while ago between Don and Digi, and that was specifically in the context of Digi trying to preserve what they have. And it's a little ironic looking back at that now.
Oh, yeah. I don't recall that. What was about? Just like preserving the content?
Oh, if I remember right, Digi was talking about the efforts to preserve it that some people have done, which at this point, it's very, very good that people did that because otherwise some of that content would have been lost.
Yeah.
Where they were talking about how people were having archives and it was a very expensive effort.
Yeah.
And it's a little unnerving if you are someone who is attached to that content because it doesn't feel entirely safe, even in Digi's account, because the idea of, or rather be at this point, I suppose, they have a pretty tumultuous life and they explicitly take wild turns as a creator. Even having the videos in their account in private, I don't know if they're exactly safe because them saying something that would finally bring the YouTube hammer down on them, even if they preserve the videos as best they could, that could happen.
Yeah, and no. Like the fact that the video is in YouTube, it's not safe. Period. Like it doesn't matter if it's like a spicy video from a weird topic. No, it just doesn't matter. The fact like it's in somewhere else, in someone else's computer, just like you don't have power over it, despite the account belongs to you in a way. It just doesn't matter. The only way to really preserve the thing is to have it in the most hands possible. You know, like if it's easy to share, that's it. Like it's preserved.
It's so odd that without noticing it, YouTube almost became a single point of failure in the world cultural system, where it's actually almost a suicidal idea when you think about it, to have one company and I suppose one server farm as the repository for a very significant chunk of what we are producing as a species when you think about it.
Yeah, but that's the thing, like YouTube, it's not a repository. Like it's other thing, like that's the trick. Like thinking like it's a place to store videos. No, YouTube is like a data farm through videos, which is different. Like it's not the main goal, store videos. At least I don't think so. That
is totally true. And in a weird way, this happened by accident and really never should have happened. Where YouTube is a company that does not really exist. It can't support itself in its natural form, or it cannot support itself. It's reliant on Google and Alphabet and all those shenanigans. Where, because that was allowed to happen, all this information was funneled into one place, when in a more natural system, it would probably be more normal and organic to have the information flowing in a bunch of different places at once.
Yeah. And going back to the channel, I was following the... I mean, I wasn't following. I just entered like kinda out of curiosity. a Twitter account of one of the people doing the archiving. And the thing that surprised me so much, that I think like that is the proof, like archive YouTube, not just one channel, but YouTube as a whole, is going to be impossible. The day YouTube dies, most of it is going to go to trash. Like the size of the archive, it's going to be like, I think 1 terabyte and something, just videos, which is insane. Like to think that that's just one channel.
Yes, it absolutely is. That is.
And to put like a little bit into perspective, the other day I was looking a little bit about old web, like pure HTML pages. It doesn't matter. But the thing is, I encountered do you recall Geosites?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, it was a service like to make quick web pages, like in the early 90s, that was huge. Then was bought by Yahoo, and several years later it exited and deleted everything. Millions and millions of websites just poof. But the thing of the channel, yeah, I was one of them, and it really sucked.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. But a group of people archive Geosites as the full thing, all the millions and millions and millions of websites. The size of it is 1 terabyte, the same size of Digi's channel, which it's insane, like to think.
Oh my god,
the sizes, yeah.
That's hilarious to think about. We might hit a point, maybe 50 years from now, who knows, where individual creators, their personal artistic projects will be the size of the entire internet as it currently exists.
I mean, like, this thing that's happening right now is kind of the point. Let me show you. Just there is, for example, ¿cuántos?
While you're looking that up, that gives me such an interesting thing where I do have a degree in history. It did not take, but I do have one. And an interesting thing about historical documents is a lot of what we have is not what was the most important inherently. A lot of it was what was popular. Where the Library of Alexandria, situations like that. A lot of rare, obscure texts kept in one place just for safekeeping. That's a wonderful idea, but if it collapses, we never get it back. A lot of the shit we got, it was stuff that they had like you said, a lot of copies. And what actually happened is someone fucking died. They had a pot with a scroll in it. When they died, it fell under some mud. And we find it in a random dickbag's garage 3,000 years later. That's how we usually get shit. There's a really...
For example, a couple of years ago, you know the movie Metropolis? Like the old movie...
I know
black
of
and white.
it. I have not seen it.
It doesn't matter. The thing, like, there was this guy back in Argentina who inherited like the house of his grandfather and was going like through the things. And in the basement, he found like a tape, like not a tape, like movie reel.
Mm-hmm.
Is that with the movie Metropolis, an original copy with a bunch of new scenes that were lost. No one knew about them. And it was just in only this random place in Argentina. Only God knows why.
If I remember right, the same thing happened with some old Doctor Who episodes where a random TV station in the middle of Africa happened to have been one of the places they circulated. And after the official records were destroyed, they realized, they destroyed the last copy, and by pure fucking coincidence, a random African TV studio had them.
Oof.
So I think stuff like that happens fairly often.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, for example, we are talking about video now.
Yes.
It's easier to just be able to copy a file. Like, and everyone just has like different copies of the file and it's safe. But for example, taking YouTube is not just, it kind of like mark the standards. For example, 1080p going further. Now that it's available to have stuff in 4K, like the big channels are putting stuff in 4K, which I think, like, for example, for most of the videos up there, like 480p, it's already like way too much. But they are all artificial stuff and requirements that in the end are going to make keep them safe way and way harder, and unless it's in Google's hand.
On that topic, do you think there should be a movement or a best practices, something to stop the constant expansion of how memory is used like that? Because it does legitimately seem like a situation where probably less than 1% of people can even use 4K in that context, because very few people are watching YouTube videos on big screens.
Oh, yeah.
And it almost seems wasteful where it makes the file and the artifact so much more fragile and prone to being lost because fewer people are going to store it. And we really don't get much more for it.
No, but I mean, even video at all. For example, this is going to be a video of a podcast with just a still thumbnail, but it's going to be a video with a still image when it could be just easily like an MP3 file, for example.
Oh no, that pisses me off too.
Yeah,
I really want YouTube to have a feature where you can upload a MP3 or a .wav and an image and they do it for you, but they fucking force you to do it as a video.
That's the thing. It's never going to happen because for them, like, it's better to have it on video. Like, it take out control from the people. Everyone knew how to handle an MP3 file. Not everyone know how to handle, like, a video file, you know?
I don't know how to handle a video file. I have to rely on the software I'm using. Where in MP3, it's very simple to modify. You can just use Audacity or whatever. When I compile this, the backend stuff, the codecs, the encoding software, I would not know what to do if the engineers at Adobe had not done that for me.
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm in the same spot. I'm just go like next, and pray for everything like to be solved somehow. But I just find the number of the Shia sites thing. It was 38 million pages. Websites.
That's so much.
Yeah. Which is smaller than the Digi archive.
A strange thing about that is if something can be allowed to become old, it's probably in much better shape. Where if people hold on to the Digi archive, well, if people hold on to the Digi archive for 30 years, memory will probably be so cheap and so available that it's almost like sharing an MP3 is now, where 1 terabyte will be a relatively small chunk of memory. The real thing, or maybe, I am assuming that DNA-based computers or quantum crystal mechanics, whatever they're working on, I'm assuming that Moore's Law will continue, or assuming it is Moore's Law.
In size, yes. Like, there is no way, like, in the future I'm going like a terabyte, like, and that's going to be like the memory I have, I don't know, like in a thumb drive easily. It kind of is already. But what was the name of this? Have you read a little bit about bit rot or data rot?
Data rot?
Yeah.
No, I'm assuming that's a thing where stored memory on drives will break down.
Not necessary. I mean, yes. But for example, you have the video file. The video is built, as you said, like, it's coded like with the codecs. What happened when the codec stopped being developed, doesn't exist anymore. Like how you play the file and a lot of stuff like that. Like if you try to play like a a file from even like files extensions for pictures that doesn't exist anymore. Like, it's kind of tricky. I mean, it's doable, but it's not just as straightforward as it might seem of like plugging the file and pressing always play.
Yeah, it's almost like having documents in a forgotten language, which has happened. Yeah. And if we lose the Rosetta Stone, we'll never have it again.
Mm-hmm.
That does exist in the real world as well. We have whole warehouses full of ancient tablets from, I think, Minoa would be the big example.
Oof.
Where they had two writing systems. We kind of figured out one of them, and the other, I think it's called Linear A. No one has ever managed to break it. So we potentially have the history of ancient civilizations that we know nothing about them, just sitting there idle forever, and we'll never be able to figure it out.
Yeah, that's pretty wacky to think about.
And when we're in a world where languages are being created and destroyed on a yearly basis, that becomes a lot more threatening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, but going back like to the internet, like, I think it's one lie that everyone, me included, like basically everyone, ends believing, that I don't think is true at all. Like, it's, if it's in the internet, it's forever. Like, everything lasts forever there. And that's not quite real. The only thing that lasted forever are stuff like people it's easily to share, you know?
Yes.
The rest, how many sites that were never going to die disappear? Like MySpace, Fotolog, Shield sites. Like, at one moment of their life, there was someone who assumed like, this is going to be forever. And it's always like just a lie. And I think like in the end, like YouTube, for example, is going to be one more of those.
You could almost make an analogy to living systems, where it's almost like if you have an animal that can live on every continent, reproduces really quickly, you can turn it loose basically anywhere, and it's going to be around for a good long time. Mm-hmm. But if you have something that is restricted to a very particular environment, like pandas only exist because we want them to exist. Where certain content, it's like they're rats, I guess. The need to constantly reproduce them keeps it going. And that might even be a thing. It might be a situation where the life of the artistic work is an inbuilt protection mechanic, where if people are constantly sharing it, then it's always going to move from one generation to another. Yeah. And you're always going to have a format that can be played because they make a new one every 2 years. Mm-hmm. It might be a situation where going over and over and over again for thousands of years will be fine. But if no one replicates you for 3 generations in a row, you're done.
Yeah. I get like it's an interesting stuff, but yeah, in the end, I think like the morals of the story is like, if you thought like the video was safe in YouTube or in some server, like, no, not at all.
Speaking of morals, that is an aspect I'd like to ask you about. Do you think that creators have a moral obligation to help their work be replicated, to maintain availability? What kind of obligation do you think creators have to their audience once the work is out there? And what conditions do you think can move that one way or another?
I mean, I can only speak for myself. Whatever I do, I want to the most amount of eyes over it as possible, but without modifying the thing. But once it's out there, like, it's like really not in my power, you know. The thing might take a life of its own depending on how people treat it. So,
which is true of Digi. I mean, if Beatrice decided they wanted to pull everything from the internet tomorrow, no one could do it. It would never happen.
Yeah.
Because too many people have the archive as it is.
Yeah, no, so like it's something that cannot be done. Like one time it's like in the wild, like you don't have power over it at all. Like you can like control the little stuff that you still handle. For example, her YouTube channel. She totally can nuke it, but the archive is a thing already. There were a lot of people who were archiving the work, and that nothing can be done. Like that's not of her own anymore. At least I see it. It's of the person who is handling it in their hands, you know?
On that topic, the fact that it is out there and that it will be around, at least for a while, if not forever.
Yeah.
Do you think that absolves Digi of the need to maintain it on their channel? Does deleting the channel become more acceptable once you know that other people have it and can't share it?
No, I don't think one thing changed the other, really.
Oh, really?
I totally get people like getting like pissed off about the channel deletion, and it's okay. But unless those people like pay for it in some way, like it's not like there is something that it's own, you know? They might sound like kind of contradictory with each other, but I really believe like they are two things that can coexist at the same time.
That's an odd aspect of it where we are past the point of physical media. I wonder if anyone has really asked that question. Now that we are paying for access to information, is the assumption that once you pay, you have access forever? Or is the assumption that you pay and you have access for a period, or you have access to a copy that you are then responsible for updating? I don't know if anyone has really came up with a model for that.
I think there is no model. People think like it's access equals always access forever. And I think like that's at a conceptual level impossible, because it could happen like, oh, there was an earthquake and all the servers now explode. Doesn't exist anymore. You have access, yeah. To what? To nothing.
It's like the first episode of Futurama where Fry spills the beer on the terminal.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, wait, no, that wasn't the first episode. No. They did that in the flashback, didn't they? Fuck.
Oh, it's been a while since I watched it, so it might be.
I fucking watched that episode when it originally aired in 2000, and I'm old.
I'm older, so don't worry.
Oh, okay. I mean, I am the exact perfect age minus the distance between us. That is such an odd aspect where if you put a gun to my head and said, look at B's Patreon, these people pay this amount of money per month, even if the rewards were spelled out in perfect English, I don't know if I could tell you what those people are paying for exactly.
Oh, yeah, no, it's kind of vague. I mean, like, in hard truth, like, you're paying, like, for the access in the moment, really. Because, like, for the future, like, you don't have the control of the thing you pay for at all. Like, the person who provides it can delete it, something can happen, just a million of things. It's just people assume that it's safe. You know, because, like, for example, Steam. I think it's kind of the language it's used. Like, it should be other thing. For example, in Steam, you buy the game. But in reality, you're not buying the game. You are acquiring a license to use the game. And the license can change or whatever. So you are really not... or you are not like owner of anything, despite that you buy. It's, I think, kind of tricky in that way.
It is. It's almost like the libertarian problem, where there are certain types of libertarianism where people will make fun of them and say, if you construct a society in this way, you only really own property if you are physically on it and can defend it.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, you can buy and sell and own the property, but if you leave it and someone snatches it up, unless you want to kill that person and go to war, you can never really get it back. We're in a situation where who is protecting your long-term access to media at this point? You can't really enforce it. So it's almost the same thing. You have to fight and make your own way in the cultural environment if you want to protect your access to the shit you bought.
Yeah, I think like that's kind of what's happening. Like that's why always like online DRM is like protecting like the ownership of the thing. Like for example, always online DRM for games who doesn't need it. A Blu-ray player that needs to update firmware, or the deletion of a channel. Like it's unless you have the thing and can hold the thing in. I mean, of course, with files, hold the thing is basically having it in like the actual thing in your hard drive. But unless you don't have that, you are not the owner.
One thing that is a little curious is, what do you think about the idea of changing something after it's been made? Which is a very odd concept. An infamous example of that was George Lucas, who neurotically remade tiny little changes to Star Wars over and over and over again for 20 years. Yeah. But that was in an environment where you were still doing physical media. Lucas would do a new version and it would go out on VHS. Then he did a new version and it went out on DVD. I don't know if George Lucas could even attempt to do that at this point. And it raises the question, if you modify a work that already exists and re-release it, is it the same work really, or is it a new one?
No, I think it's totally a new one. Like one time you release the thing or you finish the whatever music, movie, that's it. And I think like it's pointless, like going back, trying like to revision the thing. I just remember some people who kind of attempted to this, like going back to games. I didn't play it, but I know it was one of the Call of Duty games, the Advanced Warfare, the one with Kevin Spacey.
What? Oh, fuck, like they replaced Kevin Spacey with a new actor?
Yeah, I think like it was the Forrest Gump guy. Which is his name?
Wait, Tom Hanks?
I think.
The guy who played Forrest Gump?
Tom Hanks, Call of Duty. Just a second.
Yeah, the man who played Forrest Gump is Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Was this because of the sexual assault thing?
Yeah, it happened that Activision didn't want to have anything to do. The game was already out, and they released a patch that automatically patched the game, and now Kevin Spacey is Tom Hanks. Nothing to see here.
That is so... Oh, you know what would be awesome? If every movie that Weinstein did, when you got to the credits, there was just a red smudge over the name.
But imagine like the Lucas thing that he needed like to release, like now it's a VHS, now it's a DVD, a Blu-ray, but different things. Imagine that, but in the Netflix era, that it's not, you see, like, oh, the new version. It just override the copy of Star Wars that there is there. Like, that's something that was lost.
Netflix is such an interesting example with that because in the old days, the studios had the infrastructure to replicate information in a way that normal people did not.
Yeah.
You needed the studio to shoot everything, get everything going, make all the different copies. At one point, you even needed the theaters to even use the copies as a consumer because you couldn't fucking do it. Now we're at a point with Netflix where Netflix is not replicating the information really. They're just making it easy. You can get anything on Netflix. Netflix just makes it very convenient, high quality, and simple by doing a payment plan. It's almost like we have went from a model where the media companies are not factories, they're not delivery men. It's almost like they're ranchers or shepherds, where people make the work, it gets out in the world, It's already spreading around organically. What they do is scoop it up and move it towards you in a convenient way.
Oh, yeah. For example, there was a couple of years ago, like a bunch of guys releasing. Do you know Popcorn Time?
Do I know what?
Popcorn Time? I might
No,
say it
I
like
do not.
shit.
No,
Well,
I do not know Popcorn Time.
The thing is, it was a little piece of software that scraped like torrents, like movie torrents, and organize it in a Netflix fashion. You double click and you see basically like the Netflix interfaces with the
That's awesome.
with the movie posters and everything. And to watch it, it was just double click, and it worked, and it was amazing. One fun thing, like when it came out in Argentina, it worked better than Netflix itself. You can imagine like how long those guys lasted until they got like sued like from 1,000 movie studios and had to plug the plug off. But they released like kind of the source code, so the program is still in different ways. But for example, distributing like the movies that way is way more effective than Netflix if you think about like as a conceptual level.
I compared them to ranchers versus farmers or craftsmen. Maybe it's more that Netflix is like a gang leader. It's not so much that they produce shit. They just mark out territory and say, if you step onto here, we kill you. And they don't really contribute anything. They just protect their creators who are in their gang from outside forces. If Netflix didn't exist and the pirates didn't exist, I suppose nothing would really get done, but nothing would be lost directly. Mm-hmm. It's more that they are little clubs that fight each other for the viewer or for the best access to them.
It's like selling the convenience, but the thing is, okay, in the beginning it's everything convenient, but when enough people like join the club, it's kind of changing the rule as they go, you know? Doing a lot of stuff that in the beginning you didn't sign for, like sudden changes, like the movies changes, or in the case of YouTube, okay, now these are the new terms of service. They have like such a huge market share, like when leaving stops being an option in a way, you know?
Yes, I absolutely fucking know that. Where YouTube is a monopoly and you can't really go anywhere else because they empower you with their monopoly power, and giving that up is a big deal.
Oh, yeah. But the thing is, they can do that because, like, the users, for you, who do you think are the YouTube users?
Humans.
No.
No?
No, like the users of YouTube are like the people, the companies who put the ads on them, who bought the data. The people are like, the videos are kind of like a side thing. If you think that way, it makes more sense, like all those apocalypse things that had happened in the past. It's like to appease their user base.
Yes, and YouTube abusing the content creators in a way they could never possibly get away with if they were a more traditionally structured organization is a constant source of frustration. It is not fucking normal to have to remake a piece of art 15 fucking times so that the person who is paying you to make it will let you give it to them.
Yeah, no,
that is fucking absurd, and they only get away with that because it's not a normal platform. It's not organic, artistic, or creative exchange. It's you're helping the mob run the fucking pizza place in front of the actual gun depot thing.
No, the thing is like that. Like I think it's not coincidence. Like they stop calling like videos and everything just content. Like
That's
in
so
the
weird.
eyes, I feel disgust to the core, you know, when I hear the word, and more when I say it myself. Like, I just hate it. But
Wait. Maybe it's pronounced content and we're supposed to be happy.
Oh, I'm really happy. For YouTube, the content creators are really like, think of everyone who make videos as miners. They are just, and the objective is mine engagement. That's it. To sell ads. There is no other way to really see the workaround of like the machinery. Like, okay, you get it into YouTube. You want to upload a video talking about the stuff you like, some music or what. It doesn't matter. Your objective is farm or mine engagement from the people who are watching, to sell them to advertisers. The ad company are the real users of the thing, and that is the same for Facebook and all the other like companies that are floating around.
It's so strange that YouTube and these other tech monopolies try to get away with this, because it's really destructive when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
There's something so scummy about having this massive churning cauldron of really low effort content, really low quality content that is not even trying to connect to an audience, where YouTube plays to the instinct of creativity and wanting to make something where the author makes it, the consumer looks at it, and the time that both of them spend are a product of the equilibrium of the back and forth between them. Mm-hmm. YouTube plays to that instinct, but it also corrupts it in a really ugly way, and it entices people to bad behavior. Where I recently got on a tear about this, but YouTube wants you to spend your life in such a stupid fucking way. It's an environment where motion and progress mirror each other so much that you really have to have discipline not to fall into bad habits.
Yeah, no, like, because like that crap is it's basic. The other day, there is like this family friend back from Argentina, and they have a little kid, like he's 9-year-old, and he showed me like a video he recorded himself like in the cell phone. And when he showed me, it was like all set up like he was a YouTuber. And it was so fucking shocking to see that, like the kid playing to being a YouTuber and all that. But I think it's because it really, like the promise, YouTube, Spotify, all those kind of things like gives, like it's really tempting. Like the promise of, oh, you will have like an outlet to express yourself, blah, 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 blah. But that's just the bait.
It is. And the cultural cachet that YouTuber has taken on in the culture is really not good in the long run. Where when I was younger, I was defensive of people like YouTubers, internet creators, people who found their own way, worked through the system. Mm-hmm. I had a very real affection for those people. I wanted them to be seen as more legitimate. And now that I'm getting older and bitter, I'm looking at it going, actually, you know what? This is kind of fucked up and stupid.
Yeah, no. I agree. I've been through the same like work of ideas. Because I mean, it's not much problem of like the individual people, but the thing is, in a perfect world, like in Google's perfect world, we all will be like just drooling in front of the phone, watching countless hours of AI generated Minecraft Let's Play. That's it. Like there is not an outlet for creativity there. I mean, that's like a side effect, but not the point.
I believe that you can do it. I believe that there is a way of using YouTube where you are legitimately artistically fulfilled and you're doing something new, you're moving the story forward. But I think it takes so much fucking self-awareness to do that not fall into the behavioral sink of the algorithm that hardly anyone can do it. I think the best example would be something like fucking Endless Jess, although I'm not breaking any new ground there. And
I never watched this stuff. I hear
there's no point
like
now.
His name like throw around, but I never watch it. I don't know what he does.
Well, the thing with Endless Jess is they just delete. As far as I know, as far as I understand, they just took down Horseshoe Finale, and I don't know if Jess even makes sense anymore if that's gone. Where the whole thing about what he did is he took the trappings of YouTube and he found a really creative, compelling way to turn it into a fascinating meta-narrative where it was a combination of YouTube analysis, performance art, meta-textual narrative YouTubing where him and his character, the boundary between it broke. Stuff that happened in his narrative also happened in real life. He did something really interesting. And looking back, I think it's going to be a really compelling little historical moment where someone understood YouTube on a level where they found a way to spin it into something artistically fulfilling.
Yeah.
But Horseshoe Finale is fucking gone now, so you have to go to the people who archived Jess's shit to get it. Yeah. So it just takes us back to the beginning of the fucking conversation.
Like it's not reliable because like archiving videos, it's not like YouTube's priority.
Maybe in a way that will end up being the point of YouTube, where those Buddhist artworks that they make out of sand?
That they destroy it right after?
Yes. I think like if something lives only in YouTube, that's the only sane way to engage with it. It's that or madness. Madness is a good way of putting it. Grafo, do you have any other directions to take this? This has been a pretty good conversation. I'm glad you like it, despite of my but getting there with English. That is a hazard of one, talking to people where it's not their original language, and two, where this kind of thing is not what they do. I'm improving at this as well. Part of the reason I'm doing this is I want to get better at speaking.
Yeah. No. I understand that.
Were there any other specific points you wanted to hit?
No, I don't think so. I mean, like in summary thing is like Digi. Well, now like Trixie nuking the channel. Yeah, shitty for a lot of people. Like it's in her right to do it. Totally. The people who want to archive it are in their own, sadly. But once it's archived, like it's on those people what to do with that. It's not the Digi channel anymore.
No, that's fair. Although Trixie does seem to be keeping the videos in reserve because they didn't say they were deleting them. So we'll see. This has been interesting for me. I think I've become more sympathetic to what, we'll say, Trixie did over the course of this, because a few of the points did justify it a little bit. I'm definitely not happy overall, even though I am sympathetic to it. Yeah, I will say. Go.
No. Like I kinda get it. Kinda like respect. If you want to nuke everything to have like a clean start, like to create something new and not just like destroy for the sake of destroy, that's something that I understand. And also like for the people who were the watchers, yeah, it's also like pretty shitty. But I don't think like it's a betrayal,
I will say, if nothing else, the one thing that Trixie cannot dodge is there was a better way to do this.
Oh, yeah.
There was 100%
totally
a way that would have made this simpler on people, where realistically, by all logic, they could have easily done this themselves. Or grabbed 2 or 3 superfans and coordinated an effort publicly where everyone was calm. Just making a video saying, I'm deleting my channel, 1, 2, 3, go, and expecting people to scramble around. And
it's definitely not cool.
And then not even honoring the deadline that you made up out of nowhere in the first place.
Wait, it's already gone?
Yeah, they are. Oh, I thought you knew that.
Oh, no, I missed that part.
Around yesterday, they privated most of the videos. And part of why I brought up the issue of the archive is already allegedly complete is because that seemed to be part of B's logic, where it has already been archived, and therefore the pressure is off. But they still privated the videos well before they said they were going to, and a lot of people are not happy, and I can't really blame them for that.
Oh, no, not at all. It's okay to be pissed off for that.
It's, like I said, there was almost certainly a better way to do it. Which you're not arguing with me on.
No. In that regard, it's hard to argue.
As a final thing, I'd like to ask you.
Yeah.
I have been much like Trixie seems to have been doing. I've had a lot of angst lately with YouTube. On my end, it's very different, where it was the angst of feeling like I'm spending my time doing something that's not really going anywhere, or it's not the right way to be spending my time. Where with them, they were very bogged down in success and wanting to go out on a new direction.
Yeah.
And I gave a lot of thought to deleting my channel in the last several weeks, and this happening is part of the reason I decided that was wrong.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't have done it. But I'm curious. One thing though, I have a lot of old videos that I made on the way here that I very quietly privated or took down, where no one really cared about them, but they were a part of my channel and I did remove them.
Yeah.
Do you think there's something iffy about the fact that I did that?
I think it's not bad, but it's a shame, because in those things, even the crappy stuff everyone does at the beginning, it's one of the steps to whatever you're doing right now. It's nice, to look back. Again, if you want to delete it, just nuke everything. You're in your right to do it. But I think it's something that always lands in regret. I'm talking from myself, that not necessarily active deleting stuff, but a lot, if not most of the stuff that I ever put online, it's gone. It's no anymore. It's pretty shitty, most of the stuff, but I kinda long for it.
I guess it's like seeing an old picture of yourself from the 1990s when you had frosted tips and wore stupid shirts with triangles on them.
Pretty much. And you wouldn't ever use that again, but it's like a snapshot of time. Really, some people I'm going to delete this because it's going to be shameful or whatever, and in the reality, that's not true for almost every case.
I have 1 or 2 videos that people will have to wait until after I'm dead.
Okay.
Or at least, or at the very least, until I am well past what that time in my life was. But I think you are making a good point here, and I think I'm going to, at the very least, hold on to those so I can show them to people later, because That does seem good. Although I am terrified of hackers getting it and putting out my old She-Ra criticism video where I was anti-feminist and offended people. And yes.
Ooh. I want to see that now.
No, you don't. That's part of the problem. The script was rushed because I was trying to make shit quick. And so I couldn't defend my points properly. So I just had to hold my head in shame and think, damn it, my stupid feminist listeners are right.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, you say, in shame, because, like, you disagree with you said, and you said, like, it was produced in a sloppy manner. But that way of working is the right way of working on YouTube. Like, grab something quick, it doesn't matter, if it's well done or not. But if the people react to it in one way or the other, that's a success. In YouTube's eyes, of course.
Yeah.
It's not for anyone else in the planet.
Yeah, in YouTube's eyes, that's wonderful. For human beings, that is probably a soul-destroying, psychotic way to live.
Oh, no.
I'm glad I'm putting it behind me. Okay, everyone, I am now talking to Asher Lev, one of my Twitter mutuals that I am hoping to do some movie stuff with at some point. We will see. Asher, how are you doing?
I am doing well. How are you doing, Green?
I am doing pretty okay. Just thrilled I can finally talk some more about this. So we are talking about the topic of digital media, erasure, the obligation that creators have to protect their work in a changing landscape. Just to start picking your brain, what kind of obligation do you feel that creators have when they put something on YouTube, for example, like we're talking about the Digi erasure? And who do you think it ultimately comes down to protect media if you feel it needs to be protected?
That's a good question. What my general thought is that YouTube at least serves as a place where you can just put unlimited content and there's no limit, because they pay for their own servers. They don't need to worry about how much content is on their sites, because whatever the price costs, they're going to pay it, because the money they get from just looking at what people are interested in, the money they get off of people's data is, that pays YouTube's pockets, But at least on the user end, it's nice that you can just put whatever you want on there, and then it can just be there forever, and you don't have to worry about it being deleted or having to pay more to put more stuff on this website. How much it comes down to the creator to kind of preserve their own media, I don't think the creator has any responsibility towards that. And I guess that general mindset comes from, last year I watched a great deal of movies, and I watched a lot of Scorsese movies and looked a lot into what he's doing with the preservation of films right now. He has that Film Preservation Society, I think it's called. That's been going for like 30 years now. And essentially what he saw was, there's these great pieces of art that, because they're on physical media, they are eventually going to wither away and die. So let's preserve them for as long as possible, because film, at least to Scorsese, is very important, and he wants to keep that art form alive, and he wants to keep these old films from, like, say, Cuba or Africa. He wants to keep those around so future generations can watch them and then take inspiration from them. But when it comes to like digital media, on the user end, how much you want to preserve your own work is kind of up to you. I've grown up with YouTubers who will just like delete their videos after they're sick of them. I've done the same thing. I made a video about lyric videos. It was like 20 minutes long. I talked so much about like, how much I like lyric videos and everything. And I edited it very well, but the script was garbage. And I eventually just decided I wasn't happy with it, so I took it off the internet. Now you just can't watch that. So speaking personally, on a user end, I don't think there's any obligation. If you want something to to be preserved, you kind of have to do what Martin Scorsese's doing, which is go out of your way to preserve it yourself if it's meaningful to you.
I think there is some definite fairness in what you're saying, where on the consumer end, it's understandable that you can't expect a creator to defend their creation forever.
Yeah.
In fact, if they're doing that, on some level, I think that's a sign that something is going wrong.
Yeah.
Almost people, who the fuck was it? I think it was Kevin Smith. Oh no. God, I can't believe I fucked that up. It was actually the comedian Joe DeRosa, I think, now that I think about
Joe DeRosa.
Probably an unknown at this point. He made fun of the Wachowski brothers in comparison to George Lucas, which is actually very bizarre now I think about it, saying that after the Wachowskis put out The Matrix, they almost went on a tour, or part of their lives became defending The Matrix, and a lot of the critics who liked The Matrix really felt a need to defend it and explain these movies are smart, they're valuable, they're culturally significant, and basically making the case that a lot of The Matrix's long-term momentum within the culture was the product of people justifying it after the fact. And DeRosa then pointed at Lucas, saying Lucas just made something that was so mimetically vibrant that it took off and it defended itself, and there was no real need for him to defend it. And ironically, Lucas spent the rest of his life destroying the legacy of what he made, and even his attempts to destroy his own artwork could not quite succeed. And which is kind of a pretzel when you think about it. But you mentioned obligation. I think it is fair to say obligation and responsibility and power and opportunity all should be somewhat in sync with each other.
Okay.
Where it's completely unreasonable to expect a creator to maintain file servers forever. The only reason we even think about this is you mentioned YouTube is so powerful from the creator side. The fact that it is free from our perspective is really the only reason you would expect that. If people had to pay to keep their videos up, then eternally keeping videos up that no one really cared about necessarily or were old news, it would be absurd to expect that.
Yeah.
But do you think in an environment where consumers are they have reason to be afraid that a video will disappear forever, do you think that obliges the creator to be more proactive or maybe facilitate an archival effort like the one going on right now for Digi? And really quick, to be clear, the Digi name situation, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm a little lost at this point, so just whatever.
I think she's going by Beatrice now. But I think at least for now, everyone kind of understands what Digi means, and that's the kind of name that seems most comfortable to people when talking about the entity that is Beatrice, I guess.
I just felt the need to clarify because I suspect you have an ongoing relationship with them in some fashion, so I didn't want to insult them while you were here. At least with Digi's, or I guess Beatrice's end, that relationship is mostly professional, although a little platonic. I would consider them friends now that we've met, but it is also just like the what I essentially do for them is make lyric videos because it's fun for me, and that's something I enjoy doing. The person who I'm like really friends with, at least in that house, is Riley, who I reached out to and then was like so nice and welcoming and like he and I have very similar anxieties about like everyday conversation. So I really get along with Riley, which was a surprise. I did not expect to get along with Riley as well as I did, but he seems to be, he's the one who I genuinely talk to the most in that house. But yeah, I would consider all of them friends, but the person who I talk to the most, at least, is Riley. Okay, yeah, just wanted to clarify real quick. But do you think that media potentially being in jeopardy creates do you think that changes or
it creates a greater demand for it to be preserved? And like at least with Beatrice's situation, she said, okay, well, I don't like most of the content on my channel. I don't feel like it represents me anymore. I want to do something new. I want to be understood as something that I'm not understood as currently, which is somebody who just does whatever they want. She wants to do fiction. She wants to do music. She wants to do all this stuff. It makes sense to me that she would be like, okay, well, I need to get rid of this stuff that gives another impression, that gives the impression that I'm an analysis channel first and foremost, because that's not who I am. So I get her point of view, but I also do respect that she was pretty transparent about it at first. She was like, hey, listen, this is going to happen. If these videos mean a lot to you, you have to do the preserving yourself, because I don't want to. And it seems like people did. It seems like most of the videos that people wanted archived were archived. So, I think if you're going to do that type of thing, you're going to create a supply for, you're going to create a demand for your art to be preserved, and you don't necessarily need to do anything about it, which is what she did. I've also seen artists go the other end, which is just deleting their own stuff, which is something that I've done without warning. It makes sense to me,
I have had similar experiences. I've only been doing this for a few years, and the arc of me getting onto YouTube and getting to where I am now, I have changed profoundly in that time, to the extent that a lot of my earlier stuff, even though it's only a few years ago, really doesn't represent me that much either, even if you can kind of get a feel for the progression. And I also have made videos that I have quietly taken down. And actually, this whole situation with the channel destruction, that's made me question myself a little bit, because I found myself feeling miffed that the channel was being taken down like this. Yeah. And then that made me think, well, I have done the same thing. The only thing is I'm a failure, and at least numerically, and no one really cared. Yeah. Does the fact that people care change it? And is it unfair for me to be upset that the video is going down? Because several of the videos I took down, you would be hard-pressed to find a single human who would even remember them. Some of my videos, some of my really weird videos I did a while ago, most of the views were me, because I found myself thinking, I kind of like this, but I don't know if I want it out there on the internet reflecting against me forever. Yeah. And does that change things? If I had forgotten about those videos and someone had found them and really lashed onto them, or if someone approached me and said, hey, I remember that video from 9 months ago, where did it go? Would that put a moral onus on me to do something?
I've actually gotten into that situation sometimes with musicians. I don't know if you know who I guess Jeff Burgess is.
I am musically illiterate.
Or Just Fern. She's this musician friend of or I guess he's this musician friend of Digi's, who I also did lyric videos for back in the day, but they're an artist. They're like a musical artist who has had a very difficult time with their old catalog, because they used to do pony music, and when they stepped away from that, they didn't want to be known for it, and so they would change the name they were musically known by. So Just Fern became their moniker for a while, and they would make punk music, and at least at the time they were transitioning, so it was very kind of queer flavored. But as time went on, they kind of slowly but surely deleted old projects of theirs, and the only person who would really notice was me, or I guess somebody like Beatrice, who was friends with them at the time. But even then, I think I have a general better idea of the stuff that was deleted on their end. I really there's this one EP they made called I Like My Coffee White and My Boys Black, and I really liked that EP, but they deleted it and it's hard to find nowadays, and I think it's just lost to time. And I've grown up with that kind of thing all the time. Like, I grew up watching Endless Jess, and he deleted
God damn it.
Well, I mean, he deleted
Stop being in your early 20s, people. Fuck you. I grew up with Endless Jess. What do you mean? Jess is like 22, right?
No,
God damn it.
I was 15 when I watched the Horseshoe finale, you know? That was a deeply meaningful video to me, but
for me
it's
too.
gone
I was
now.
just 25.
Oh, well, sorry to hear you're old, man. Can't do anything about it.
I know. I can't. This isn't your problem. I know. Just keep going.
I understand. Anyway, but like, you know, the Horseshoe finale meant a lot to me back in the day, and it's gone now because just I assume Jess doesn't stand by it anymore, and that's completely fair. Somebody re-uploaded it, so it's not like it's gone forever. And even if it was, the meaning that I got from it was there. So does it change? I guess, does it change it if somebody wants it? You know, I would certainly like the Horseshoe finale to still be up on Jess's old channel, but he clearly doesn't want to stand by it anymore. I feel like I, at least on my end, I would feel entitled to even ask that sort of thing, to even ask him to preserve it on his end. For me, it's just the artist can do whatever the hell they want with their art. That's like because I grew up with people like Endless Jess, and even, you know, people who kind of disrespected the whole idea that the audience has any control over what they make. I've never had that expectation of artists just always keeping their stuff up and never wanting to delete it, and will always stand up for it. It's always good. You know, I just didn't grow up with that. I always kind of assumed that wasn't a thing that most artists realized. And with the internet, you can literally just delete stuff off of it, and now there's no more record of it. And that can be a good thing sometimes. Sometimes there's sometimes you put out a piece of fiction or a video that, you know, a few years down the line might not look so, you know, PC by that day's standards, and you're like, okay, well, I don't agree with this video anymore. I'm going to take it down. And that's what happens a lot of the time. So I don't know.
Horseshoe finale is actually a very odd one to bring up because I only recently learned the Horseshoe finale was taken down, and that upset me for several reasons. One of which was I learned about it after the Digi situation, which made me think maybe that's where they got the idea. Maybe it was this domino that's destroying a huge portion of the YouTube content I've cared about over the years. And Horseshoe finale is so odd because it occupies an almost unprecedented niche in online culture and by extension world culture, I guess.
Yeah.
Where it was the moment where a small YouTuber with the small YouTube format attempted a project of incredible scope where the video was basically an edited movie, but even more than that, it was the capstone to this long meta-narrative that had been crafted along the way and came up to this moment, and it spoke to issues so much larger than the video itself. Yeah. Where, by all logic, Horseshoe finale should have become history.
Yeah.
It should have become this cultural touchstone where future historians, when they look at the YouTube era, because I don't think YouTube is going to last forever the way it does. In a lot of ways, it feels over now.
Yeah.
I felt like I was going to be able to tell my children, look at Horseshoe finale. This was the moment that someone really figured out what makes the internet different and how that can make something beautiful. But now that's gone. And in a weird way, it's almost hard to get that upset about it because part of what made Horseshoe finale good was it spoke to the format. It spoke to what being a YouTuber is/was compared to being a more traditional artist. And that being something ephemeral, transient, and arising out of the life of the person as they're living it, that's part of it. So maybe the ephemeral nature is inherently part of what made Horseshoe finale good.
Okay. I mean, yeah. It's hard to say because at least at that point, it feels like that's a justification that, I would be arriving to after it was already deleted.
That is very true. Good point.
Yeah, if it wasn't deleted, I wouldn't have to reckon with this,
I apologize, everyone. That was cope, and I was called out for it. Much like my advanced age.
But now that it is gone, as somebody who has deleted stuff of my own, who doesn't always want stuff to stay around, I get it. And because I've done that myself, I would feel like I was cheating or lying somehow if I got upset at somebody else for doing that. Because it's like, okay, well, I've been there. I get it. I can't judge you. I can't. Even if something has had, seriously, Horseshoe Finale, I grew up watching Endless Jest, and I know I said that already earlier, but that has completely changed the way I think about my approach to online creators and parasocial relationships has. I act dramatically different in those capacities than most people do because I grew up with that media. I don't know if you're familiar with the comedian Bo Burnham, but he has
not recently, but yes.
I guess not recently because I grew up with him too. His big comedy special is called Make Happy. It's on Netflix, but that's very much about the kind of art of performance and what that means in the modern era, in a time where people and specifically kids are encouraged to perform everything about themselves all the time for no reason. And that will fuck you up if you're growing up and you don't have many friends and you're just online all the time, it'll fuck you up. I know that because I was like that, it gives you certain, because YouTubers seem closer than say rock stars or, big sports people like Tom Brady, because they're somehow closer and the point is that they're more easy to access. There seems to be this sort of entitlement from a lot of people who watch YouTube to just assume it's always going to be around, it's always going to be there, and that all the creators they like the same things about their creations that the fans do, and that's just not the case.
You keep bringing up the parasocial aspect, and I think that's a big part of what makes YouTube so unique. And I have very recently had a hard reckoning about this and been looking at myself, where the recent developments with Digi, or now B, has really made me question things, where I almost feel like parasocial relationships, which are so inherent to what YouTube is, I almost look at it as, I don't know, a forbidden technique, or you can almost think of it as a drug.
Okay.
Where I've hit the point now where I look at someone like Jess, where they were a virtuoso, where they understood the parasocial impulse and used it perfectly, created this beautiful artistic experience that no one really has made before or since, unless you want to count. Oh, go ahead.
I've shown my older brother a few of Endless Jest's videos, and my older brother's not really interested in the pony stuff. That was always me. I was always the weird kid growing up. But even when it comes to Beatrice's stuff, some of the stuff that I've shown my older brother, no one in my family really got it. But at least with Jess, my older brother has at least gotten a sort of appreciation for Jessie, because of what is commented upon outside of just the pony show. It's more than just My Little Pony reviews. It's talking about all these things that affect us every day. It's talking about growing up in a world where parasocial relationships are something that you kind of have to maintain and grow if you want to have any significance as a person anymore. And it's kind of a shame that it's gotten to there, because I don't think, and Bo Burnham gets into this too, I don't think the path of an artistic career or the path of performance is for everybody, but you're getting to the point where that seems... Yeah, but you're getting to the point where like kids are saying, "Oh, I want to be a YouTuber when I grow up," and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, that's scary. We can't have that, because that's like you are trained to grow these parasocial relationships, and you're trained to think that they're normal, and they just aren't most of the time. Like if you go back 20, 30 years, these things this just didn't happen. At least not to the same extent. And now, because of like the closeness of the internet and how easily accessible everyone is to everyone, again, I was getting back to this, but there is entitlement there, but there's also just like a sense of, I get a sense of dread when I think about it. I'm like, oh, what are kids growing up in like nowadays? It's because I grew up in that same sort of environment, and I don't want that for somebody who might, I don't know, do better with some just hanging out with their friends. I don't want them to pursue the path of being a YouTuber. If you can choose to live your life without, making anything or being a performer, you absolutely should. That's my take. And that's why I've kind of realized, like when I was in middle school, I wanted to be a YouTuber because I was a big fan of Beatrice's stuff. I, again, grew up watching her, and this was a thing I wanted to do myself. I did a few videos like that, and I'll be honest, I got one video that I really like. I really like that Art and Escaping Death video I made. But other than that, I realized it's not for me. I like editing more. I'm doing lyric videos is fun, and I can do that without having to be on camera or have to articulate any ideas in a way that I end up hating by the time I get them out,
I have a lot of sympathy for a lot of that. I have also been very self-critical about my content. I've been very aware that my skill set is really not the YouTube skill set. I am so much more of a writer than a speaker or a video guy that it's really not even close. And the nightmare of children growing up in an environment where internet fame is seen as something aspirational and almost normal, that is only secondary to the pornography epidemic, maybe, in terms of how it's deranging young people.
Yeah.
And that's actually an area where our slight age difference is almost useful, where people have brought up millennials about my age, especially, at later sides of the 20s.
Okay.
We were really the last generation to get a little taste of a concept of normalcy before the internet took over and things got deranged.
Yeah.
Where the rough and tumble transitionary period of the internet, where it went from this funny cat video thing no one really understood to now it's just become an institution that no one is really on top of or understands what to do with. We were there for that flip. So I had to go through the process of having the information landscape change on me. I did not have to grow up with the idea that someone like PewDiePie should be the paradigmatic human that we're all trying to be. Even if I did, ironically, become someone who got into YouTube later as an adult. The parasocial thing is so weird because it's here, and in a way, it can be positive. The thing with Jess, and I was going to make that comparison to a drug almost. Some people can use dangerous things very skillfully, turn them into something positive, and then know when to walk away.
Yeah.
Where this is rare, but there are some people who can do fucking heroin and quit and move on with their lives. They're very rare, but they do exist. And I'm actually starting to look at the situation with B as something frightening that I feel like disengaging with a bit, where I've gotten to the point now where I look at it and I go, oh, Jess masterfully took the parasocial instinct, took control of it, did something beautiful, fucked off, and tried to be a real person, or at least knew how to keep a healthy distance. And now I look at B, and they built this empire that had this massive parasocial element to it. And now that the machine is breaking down and getting too complicated to function the way it did, I view them as sort of trapped, where they're so reliant on the juice and the energy you get from using parasocial relationships. It's almost like steroids in a weird way, where the whole enterprise assumed the presence of ongoing parasocial bonds. And now that that's not working or contracting to a smaller and smaller group of people, it's hard for them to make any move because anything they do causes a loss of progress somewhere else.
And also, it doesn't help that like YouTube is just screwing with them too. Like currently, they're locked out of their YouTube account, so like they can't even upload. And I'll be fair, I will say that the way that Beatrice was like uploading stuff to, I guess, Ig Studio now, would likely set off spam alarms in YouTube, just because she was doing one per day and most of her subscribers were not watching those videos. She put like the Void Gazers out one per day, and it's like, okay, that's fine.
That bizarre blackface thing where they were promoting the song for another person, which someone made the point, actually, if you swapped out the images and the files that were uploaded, it was almost identical to the Brad Garlinghouse situation. So getting caught by a bot with that is, in most cases, it would actually be a hacker.
Yeah. So like I obviously
I'm not defending
know that
YouTube. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I would never ever defend YouTube. Susan is in Al-Qaeda. That is my only political position.
I'm not defending them either. It's just I can understand what set the bot off, at least in that regard.
Yes.
But yeah, you're right. She's in a very precarious situation. I don't want to get too much into that, but she talks about in her Void Gazers podcast about constantly telling people that her career path was not something that she would recommend, and that there were some people who were like, oh shit, I did what you did, and now I'm here and I'm trapped. What do I do? You know?
Oh yeah, no. I look at them now and go, thank God this didn't work.
Well, it's not. I'm not saying thank God this didn't work. I'm saying now that it isn't working for them, now that it's kind of falling apart around them, it's like now I realize, oh well, I'm glad I followed her advice and didn't pursue that myself, because that seemed like the situation she's in, at the least, is not a situation I would want to be in. Right now, like, and this might sound sad to people who have aspirations of creating stuff or being artists, but right now I work in a warehouse. I lift boxes for a living. I stack them. And you know what? I get paid a decent amount to do it. I get paid $18.50 an hour. I have health insurance, pretty good health insurance too. I have a union. It's really not bad for me. And anytime I want to do something on the side, like edit lyric videos, I can do that because I only have to work 5 hours a day. Right now, once I move out on my own, that'll change. But I'm in a place right now where if I were to do like a creative career, I would definitely want something like my job on the side, just in case that fell through. And Beatrice, at least, doesn't seem interested in that. She doesn't seem to be interested in having like a sort of job on the side while she does art there. She told me that she really doesn't want to, I guess, return to, I guess, everyday society, you know, just doing her job. And I can't exactly recommend my job for her either, because I do have to deal with some bullshit that I don't want her to put up with, you know. I come in with painted nails, and I am trans. No one knows that there, but like it isn't exactly the most welcoming work environment for a trans person, the place where I work. I can't recommend that for a living if you're going through that, especially if you want people to call you by your preferred pronouns immediately. I haven't even asked that of anybody, and I've been on hormones for about a month now. I'm going to wait as long as possible before I even mention it, just because it's like I have a lot of Trump voters in that warehouse, which I'm not saying that people who voted for Trump are necessarily transphobic or homophobic. It's just, I mean, it's more likely. You can't really deny that.
I would replace the word conservative, maybe.
Well, because Trump voters are different than conservative voters, I think. Like the kind of people who would vote for Mitt Romney might be the same as the people who voted for Trump, but the people who are really into Trump are different than people who are really into Romney, you know?
I know what you mean, but it's like the concept of trans is going to be a hard pill to swallow for people in the past and people in the future.
Yeah.
Trump was president for 4 years. I don't think he defines the fucking culture.
No, he doesn't define the culture, but he changed it so much in those 4 years, you know? I was just in the... I didn't hear about cancel culture or like, people who were, I guess, people wouldn't complain about that every day until he started coming around. And now I hear about it at work. And it's like, okay, I mean, I don't mind talking about it. I have my own thoughts. I can share them if people are interested. But like, it's so, it is a bizarre place for a trans person to be in, because there is a lot of animosity towards ideas usually associated with, LGBT and left-leaning people in that warehouse, where it's like, okay, well, if you are like trans, I wouldn't recommend this specific career for everyone unless you're willing to put up with bullshit. And I at least with Beatrice, I wouldn't want that for her. But I do think that like she should, at this point, probably start like considering getting like a job outside of YouTube, just to supplement income.
I will say this. I very specifically am trying not to have any of this turn into a lecture about Digi.
Yeah.
I completely believe that the absolute best thing that could happen to them would be they completely walk away from this, keep working, make stuff for a few years, but work on learning to be a fucking offline person for a while, take care of their tax shit, and then come back when they're more mentally on top of shit.
That was definitely something she seemed like she was offline most of the time I visited her, and she was a lot happier that way.
Yeah, they were talking about how much fun they were having meeting real people and stuff, and now like their online life has spiraled into fucking crazy shit.
Yeah, I agree with you. Stepping away is probably a good idea. I guess you're right. We probably shouldn't let this become like a lecture or whatever. And this is at least as far as the topic is concerned, it's just about her content. And I can't imagine the sort of situation she's in. It's hard for me to put myself in there, even though I've been watching her for like 7 years at this point. It's so much of the expectations people have about her are built up from that time period. And now that she's, discovered that that's just not for her, it might be too late. And it really sucks that it took that long, to kind of come to that realization. And it sucks that she's in the situation now where she needs to maintain it, whether she wants to or not.
I had an idea a few days ago. It actually was also a part of this, where I saw people complaining about how I didn't watch it, but the new PCP came out, and it brought up the topic of ongoing, I think, Kickstarter things that B is very behind on and trying to push back. It made me have the thought of a concept of creative bankruptcy, where they're in a position right now financially where I'm not even sure what the nuances of the law are, but it seems like they will either have to go bankrupt or figure out some long-term structured deal with the IRS. I don't really know how that works. But the whole idea with bankruptcy is if debt reaches a certain point where the person gets hammered into the ground and they're never going to be able to really do things in an efficient way ever again, because all their effort goes towards managing the debt and they can never really do anything productive, that hits a point where it is damaging to the society because it turns the person into almost a literal wage slave in a way that prevents them from serving more useful roles that they could.
Yeah.
And also, part of it is responsible lending assumes that the other person can default on a loan. If you cannot default on a loan, the whole system deranges. That's the core cause behind the whole student loan fight fiasco right now. And it made me have the idea, B is in a situation where previous obligations are mounting up. And the fact that people are still expecting them, both in terms of literal products and both in terms of delivering on this aesthetic persona that they have built up, that the need to appease these ongoing obligations to fans, and I don't mean literal obligations, but expectations to fans, is hindering their ability to build new things and move in a new direction. And it seems to be hitting this boiling point where maintaining the momentum of everything that's been going up till this point is taking up more and more of their time and their energy, and it's getting in the way of new creation. I feel like we almost need a concept of creative bankruptcy where instead of going to the courts and saying, I cannot pay my debts, I give everything up, figure out an agreement, but I need to start over because I'm going to be here forever, we almost need something where you can go to the creative world and say, okay, it's over. Game's up. The thing I was doing, I cannot sustain it, and I'm too swamped with shit right now to even make more stuff. I need a clean slate. And I almost wonder, is there a kind of best practices we could come up with to facilitate people in that position, or at least come up with a mentality like that that would make situations like this better, where people are not endlessly weighed down by the past?
The issue I've found, at least seeing what's currently happening to I guess, Beatrice, it seems like the culture is just not in a place where they're willing to accept that. Would I like people to have the same approach to creators and parasocial relationships that I do? Absolutely. Sadly, not everyone grew up with the same sort of relationship to those things that I did. And the internet has made a lot of very unsocial people very vocal, and who might not, they might not necessarily know that these, might just not be aware that they're talking to real people when they're talking to people online, and that real people have real needs. A lot of the people who are really kind of hate mobbing Beatrice right now, I don't think they understand that this thing that they feel like they have entitlement over, they have no entitlement over, and it's just over, and they need to accept that. But this seems like a thing that Jess was fighting when he was doing his thing. This is a thing that Digi has always been fighting. This is a sort of relationship that the audience has with creators that was born out of stuff like YouTube, stuff like the internet, and the increased closeness people have to the creators they watch and respect. It's because of that, because of the internet, I don't think we can have nice things, because what you're talking about, what you're talking about, a sort of creative bankruptcy, going and just saying, I can't do this anymore, this isn't who I am, please give me a clean slate. That's what Digi tried to do with the, listen, everything's going in 3 weeks. She made as much of a clean slate as she could have of her channel, and YouTube screwed her over, and now and also her audience was just her old audience too. These are people who used to like her, who are old fans, are now going into her videos and just dislike bombing everything. And I as somebody who edited a lyric video for her which got dislike bombed, is kind of it's kind of depressing, because it's you need to be willing to. It sucks that the audience isn't willing to put in the effort to realize, oh, this thing that I liked about this person is dead. Let's see what this person does now. And because we're not in a place where people, or the audience of YouTube is willing to do that, we can't have nice things. In an ideal society, yeah, I'd absolutely love a sort of idea of creative bankruptcy, and just being able to go to your audience, because they are basically the court in this instant, and be like, hey, this isn't working, let me stop, and then just do your own thing. But no, as we've seen with Digi, if you do that, if you maintain one persona for long enough, people will just assume that's your real self, and when they realize it's not, they will fight back against it until you get back. They will fight you into submission, until you're making, anime analysis videos that you can't fucking stand to write anymore. That's That's the sort of situation we're in, and it's sad, but that's the way I see it.
I also think it is fair to, or useful to think about it. There are a few cases of something like this going very well. Probably the ultimate example would be Filthy Frank to Joji, where they transitioned into an entire new phase of life, and everything was very smooth. And it makes me want to think, why did that go so well? And do you think maybe part of the issue there was with Joji, the new phase was so wildly disconnected from the one before it that...
that and it also had an industry backing.
Oh, that's a good point too.
Yeah, it's like with, with something like Digi is her own person, she's just kind of, she's been doing this by herself, her whole YouTube career. She's taken very few sponsorships. She doesn't have a whole lot of mid-roll ads on her videos. I guess she was writing about that recently. She did things her own way because she wanted to do that. Because that's the thing she would respect out of other creators. Now she's realizing, okay, but if I want to do things my way, that's not going to work on YouTube anymore. It's a different beast. And, she's in a situation where she doesn't want to deal with that. Joji was never in that position. Like, he made so much money off of Filthy Frank that he was able to like do his music thing. And then people, once they realized Filthy Frank was gone, a lot of not all of, but a lot of his fan base went and listened to Joji. And he got a shit ton of new fans too, because a lot of people like Joji's music who don't know who Filthy Frank is. And that's sort of what, if Digi wants to make her music last, that's basically what she has to do. She has to get a hit. She has to just fucking market the shit out of her music, because she doesn't have industry backing like Joji did. Joji had a record studio which helped make music videos and helped push those music videos in stuff like the YouTube algorithm or whatever. And she just doesn't have that. She's her own person. So she just needs to make up for it. And there's only so much you can do. And so it's not like I can expect a whole lot in that regard.
That's a good point. One thing I will bring up, and I would like your input on this. Do you think that having the personality or the persona feel like a relationship and be presented as if it is the real person to an extent is part of the problem? Where part of the aspect with Filthy Frank, nobody thought that Joji was actually like Filthy Frank in real life. If he was, he really should be in prison.
Absolutely.
And
well, maybe not prison, but definitely like a room away from people, Yes,
the little prison within the prison.
Yes.
But with him, there was such an obvious level of irony and separation there that really was not there with Digi, even though Digi fairly often would explain to people, this isn't exactly who I am in real life.
Yeah.
It always was, they never broke kayfabe quite often enough for that to sink in with people, it seems. And it seems like the mentality we should have to make this a more healthy thing would be, remember this is a performance. Remember that this is a business and an avatar of their creative life, much more than it is a real person. But that's almost like explaining how the magic trick is done, and it's hard to expect creators to constantly do that in real life. Is there a way to have people portray themselves as personas without people believing it? Or is there a way we could fix that? It would actually maybe be cool. Maybe we should just have it be normal for YouTubers to periodically release videos where they act nothing like their online persona, and they break the spell and they just are boring drips that stand around doing nothing or do their taxes or something. I don't know if we could ever have that catch on, and that would probably lose you so much money so quickly that it would never work, but that would almost fix the problem.
I don't think at this point, like, if you're a YouTuber who's big enough to have your persona have its own audience, you're probably not, this seems like a weird complaint to make, but you're probably not paying your own taxes. You're probably just going to H&R Block. You're getting them to do it. Like that's what I'm thinking. So at least with the tax idea, that might not work. But breaking persona often is definitely a good idea. That's why Jess was able to kind of make the and I don't want to pretend that like Jess had this perfect sort of progression in his YouTube career either. I mean, he was homeless for a while, and yeah,
he was committed to the bit. Whoa. You believe that Jess was actually homeless?
For a little while, right?
Oh, no, I'm teasing you.
Oh, okay.
No, I assume that was real. But you can't really know, I guess.
Well, I mean, I'm going to take him at the words he said in the YouTube video, at least. And, you know, he was homeless for a little while, and that's a scary place to be. I wouldn't want to be in that situation, and because he was in that situation, I can't pretend that this is he had this everything figured out. But at least when he was making YouTube videos, it was very clear to everyone, because he said it constantly. He's like, I hate this. I don't like this. I don't like this, but I have to do something, you know? And it's because of that like when he eventually just left, and when and I mean, he still does YouTube videos and he's still on Patreon, but that the type of people who followed him all the way there, those are his audience now. You know, he's not going out of his way to become an influencer. He hated that sort of thing. So I definitely get where he's coming. Like, he had the opportunity to be on what's that big podcast, drunken peasants. He had the opportunity to join them, and he turned it down because that's just not who he is. He doesn't want to be well known. He doesn't want to be like an internet guy. When his Twitter account was deleted, he made no efforts to try and get back on. He seems very comfortable with just letting things die. And you need to make your audience aware that you're comfortable with letting things die. And you need to make your audience aware of that constantly, like Jesse did, or else it's always going to be a little bit of surprise.
It's ironic that the person who perfected the parasocial methodology is also such an exemplar for the mentality that will help you not fuck this up that bad. Where we almost have to teach a whole new generation of humans, at least in the industrial Western society that we live in, we have to help them relearn to despise easy celebrity, to despise the idea of having a bunch of sycophants around you who are that into this idea of you that's mostly in their head. I feel like a few generations back, you can watch my King of Comedy video if you're curious about this.
I have seen that one.
Thank you. We understood this instinctively, and we almost have to teach people again. We need a class in school where we have former disgraced YouTubers who are sad now or moved on. We bring in sad ones and then happy people who did it for a while and then moved on to other stuff. And we have them sit in a room and explain, this is actually fucking horrible unless you do it perfect. And you will make this worse if you watch shit and get too invested in it. There needs to be a bridge between reality and fiction here. And a weird thing of it is, partially because of the Jess thing, but I do believe there is a version of this that could be positive.
Yeah.
I do believe right after Digi announced the transition thing, they were doing befriending the internet and talking about that. One thing that I thought was potentially really good was trying to move things from parasocial to social in a way where there was a degree of distance there, but you explained things and actually communicated to the audience in a way that, I don't know, maybe made it a little more grounded. Where I feel like if you are in a Discord server with a creative or something, and they behave in a certain way, and they police you a bit, and they are rough with you when you're inappropriate, things like that, I feel like there's a way that creators and audiences could sort of train each other to see each other as real humans rather than these objects of worship. And I thought that was a good idea. Probably easier said than done, but I feel like there's a version of the relationship where creators have this little group of fans around them, where it could be a positive growing experience for both sides as long as you know how to behave. And it's almost like a new dimension of relationships where if I'm a youngish guy and I go out and I'm talking to a youngish woman I don't know, there are certain expectations that go around that relationship. If I'm talking to someone who's much older in a business setting, we understand there are certain ways I should present, certain ways I should speak and not speak. This is unmarked territory, but part of me feels like if we get in there and really figure it out, we can understand the bylaws and customs that facilitate good online communities with minimal crazy fucks that do crazy shit and try to like kill you or something.
When I was visiting Beatrice, Riley, Bird, all those folks, they all seem to have the same idea, which is if everything were going as well as everything should be going, people should get the fuck off the internet and just try and make friends. Try and like be social and talk to people. Like, I realized that I'm not antisocial. I just didn't grow up with anybody who I could talk to or who I was comfortable communicating with. But the second I actually went to Beatrice's house, she mentioned to me, it's like, yeah, there's like two types of fans who come to visit me. People who have, you know, just expect me to do all the talking because that's all they see me do constantly, which is talk. And then people who want to talk to me and have things to say. And you're definitely on the latter end. You know, I hear that and I'm like, wow, you must have some really antisocial fans because like I don't feel like I'm social in that way. I don't feel like I'm able to. I don't think I'm that outgoing. But I did ask to, you know, stay with them for a little, and that was scary to do. But that was something that I had more fun, you know, talking with them and just being with them, because it was like I grew up with these people. Well, at least I grew up with Beatrice, and it was so comfortable. It felt like I was with my people in a way, to just talk there, you know, and to just be open and just like it felt like I was making friends, and I don't get that opportunity all that often. And it sucks that I need the internet to get that opportunity. I've reached out to friends in New York. I met Don Jolly in New York. I was at that Gorefest live show.
Oh, you lucky fucking God damn it.
Listen,
that must have been awesome.
I live in Harrisburg, and I saw that he was going to move to Texas. And he said, okay, yeah, I'm going to be moving to Texas soon. But I have this live show in the next 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh, if I don't go now, if I don't like meet this, because I'd watched this guy's videos and I'm like, I need to meet this guy. He seems fascinating. And when he said that, I'm like, well, if I don't meet him now, I'm going to have to like get a plane ticket to Texas. I can go on a bus from Harrisburg to New York. And that's what I did. And I bring my little brother. We had a great time. You know, I haven't been able to keep up contact with Don very much, but like that was a great time that made me realize, oh, I want to talk to people, and I also need to get offline, but I need to get online in order to find people to talk to, you know?
That actually cuts a little deep to hear that. to be honest, I've had similar things where a few years ago I was completely fucking crazy and depressed and isolated and feeling like I just had no one who shared my interests at all. And it is weird. I recently have been feeling very down on the fact that I did the YouTube thing at all, because so little came of it, at least immediately. But the contacts I've made are incredible, where I have so many more people I can talk to now. You are tentatively one of them, so, you know, congratulations. I fucking where in the past I just simply didn't. I was totally isolated. Getting, you know, Thupa I talked to all the time. Michi became a good friend. kind of my whole social circle right now is a secondary result of the YouTube thing. And I really should try to be more grateful because it did give me almost everything I have right now. So yeah, maybe not be so hard on the platform, even if it's ran by Islamic terror cells. It
seems to be like a difficult situation too, because I didn't even devote myself to YouTube as much as you did, and certainly you
mean you didn't commit unemployment fraud and do mushrooms and hole up in your apartment and just make YouTubes for 6 months?
That sounds like a great time, to be honest with you. But no, I didn't do that. Now that you're mentioning it, I'm considering a few things, but I didn't commit to YouTube as much as you did, and neither of us have committed to YouTube as much as Digi has. So I can't imagine what it's like to, I guess, have these numbers telling you that you've failed. But at least for me, over the past few years, realizing that I don't want to become a YouTuber or I don't want to have that life has also made me a lot more grateful for the stuff I do have, which is people who I was able to reach online, who I talk to constantly, who I plan to meet up with eventually. That has like led to much more positive relationships in my life than I think being a YouTuber could be. And I think a lot of people need to make that same sort of need to have that same sort of realization, because a world in which like people are looking forward to that as a career is a scary one. It's especially, yeah. I don't want to talk about cancel culture too much, but like there is a part of you where you are putting yourself out there. When you're a YouTuber, you are selling yourself. And if yourself is too off-putting and people don't like it, they will try to destroy you. And that is terrifying. I've seen that happen to so many people. And it's scary. And I really don't want kids to grow up in an environment where they think that's just normal and completely okay and there's no problem with that, because that's fucked up. We can't have that. That's my kind of view on it.
Yeah, well, there's this much larger social trend, which is a conversation for another day, where basically my universal explanation for almost everything, or at least a big part, is we're in an environment of decreasing opportunity, scarcity, more pressure.
Yeah.
In that environment, the natural human tendency is to fragment into groups that become really hostile to other groups and only kind of become clan structures. So we have that along with an information flow that pushes people into niche communities that are terrified of other communities and trying to dominate spaces. And it's a really bad mixture because it's raising kids in an environment that is super win-lose, even when logically there's no reason it should fucking be that way. Because as long as YouTube's here, servers are cheap. We're not fighting over digits or bits. People need to be. If people are going to be online, I wish they would be less angry. I wish they would. I'm all for dunking on people. I like dunking on people sometimes. Sometimes there's my older brother has a saying where he's like, every day there's a main character on Twitter, and your goal is not to be it. Sometimes I can dunk on the main character of Twitter, but like I've also been in a place where a bunch of people will like come into a reply you have and just spew anger or vitriol, or I'm in a place, I have this my general approach to life is explained in 2 words: radical empathy, radical politics, and a lot of empathy, because you need a lot of empathy to reach people. And you need to have a lot of empathy to have patience to reach people. And if you don't have patience, which the internet is not suited to developing a sense for patience, you're gonna be in a place where you're angry all the time. And I was in a place where I was angry all the time in like 2016, 2017, early 2017. By the later bit, I was changing, but
like during those times, I was angry all the time. And I was in that very divisive kind of mindset that you're talking about. I was on that, oh, well, those people are on that side and they're evil and blah, 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 blah. Until I just started like talking to people. And like I work with Trump voters. I know they're not evil. You know, it's something I can talk to. And it sucks that I had to start working with Trump voters to learn that lesson. But I'm in a place where it's like, okay, well, I have my own thoughts about where I want society to go. But I'm not going to convince anybody of that by being an asshole or just calling them evil. And that's a lesson I want the rest of the internet to learn if the internet's going to be around. But that doesn't seem like it's going to be the case, and the internet's going to stick around. So I have very little hope for the future.
I have a deep relationship with doomerism. If you want to talk doomerism with so I actually might try to get people to talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
maybe for next time.
Well, I'm thinking about trying to badger Thupa into it because he's a doomer who's like went over the edge. He's just accepted death. I have hope. You see, that's the problem.
Okay. See, I don't have hope. I'm in the point, especially last year where it felt when I saw Biden win and I saw those celebrations in the street of New York, and I saw parties all across the country. The second I saw that, I'm like, I give up. There's no hope. There's literally no hope. And
the night Biden won, I was at the mouth of the Columbia River in a fucking rest stop, and a bunch of stupid college kids set off fucking fireworks right next to my truck and like woke me up.
Oh dear God! Like, yeah, see,
so it's personal.
Yeah, I don't. When I saw, like, why are we celebrating this guy? Like, this guy, I thought this guy was, like, the compromise. Like, why are there celebrations in the street? I don't understand it. And when I saw that was happening, and all last year, it felt like the world was beating me down. I was really into Bernie early last year. That didn't work out. Then the pandemic hit. Suddenly, even the slim chances I did have to socialize and go outside and start traveling, those started diminishing. And I, especially during election season, like I became insane. I literally became insane because I was starting to get so angry at everyone who was talking about it on Twitter. And I was off Prozac for like a year and a half at that point. I had to get back on Prozac because it was just driving me crazy. And at this point right now, I'm at a place where regardless of the situation that the world is going in, I just have to take care of myself. And that's where I think Beatrice is in too. She just wants to take care of herself, figure shit out on her own time. She's sadly just she has not built up a position where she can do that. And thankfully, I am in a position where I can do that now. But, if I was going back 3 years, yeah, and this same thing were happening today, I don't know what I would do. It would be terrible. It is. That's my thought.
I feel myself winding down here a bit as this has been a good This has been a good conversation. I've enjoyed talking to you, even if we got a little in the weeds near the end here.
Hey, you can always cut it down, and you'll have like a nice compact conversation.
If and or when I get a hold of Michi, if there's no clear reason to put it at the end, I might just make this one the last and just acknowledge like, hey, this goes in the extra innings a bit. Okay. A final thought about Digi. One thing that really burned into my fucking head over seeing what's going on with them is the parasocial thing. I find myself feeling like there's mold growing on my arms and I'm like scraping it off at this point. Like, don't you fucking like me as a person, you motherfucker. It's like, don't. I really feel like I've internalized this idea as a creator. If you want to stay sane and in a good position, you want your work to be something you can hide behind. You want it to be something you can put out there. And you as a human, like Death of the Author, you can actually just not even be perceptible to other humans and the work still functions so that you can fuck off and hide while people are distracted by the thing you did.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big lesson with this where having your human existence and your emotions and your persona so at the forefront of this, it's like trying to drive a car with your cock and balls or something. Like it's putting yourself in such a position of potential pain to do something that should be so much easier, where I really feel like I want my work to almost be a fortress where committed fans, like if people really like me, they'll still like me as a person, but they're not here for me. They're here for my work. And I can hide inside my work and have people not even remember I exist for a while.
Yeah.
That's probably that's probably my thought, even though that has fucking nothing to do with the topic.
No, you're good. Don't worry about it.
Do you have any you have any final things you'd like to bring up here?
I'm about out of ideas too. Would it be okay if I plug some stuff?
Sure. I probably should have asked the other people that. Asher, do you have anything you would like to promote?
Just my Twitter, at NapsyLev. You can follow me there. And I guess I have a YouTube channel. It's mostly lyric videos. And the only good YouTube video I would recommend to anyone on there is Art and Escaping Death. That's a good video I think everyone can get behind.
Okay, well, that about wraps that up. Thank you very much for chatting with me, Asher. This was a very good conversation. Hope we can have another in a little bit.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.